Hi, I'm Jenny Cassidy. I'm the Director of Counseling Services, and I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about suicide. Unfortunately, suicide is a huge problem in our world, especially among young people, 18 to 22-year-olds who are going to college. At Coastal Carolina University, we did a survey in 2011 which showed that 162 people said that they had attempted suicide because of alcohol and drugs. On another survey in 2011, it showed that about 333 coastal students attempted suicide. Now, this is not just people who considered suicide, but people who actually attempted suicide. It's a pretty serious problem and something that we need to be aware of. When people are suicidal, the ones that they are most likely to tell are their friends or their romantic partners or somebody who's a close member of their family. They're not likely to come and tell a counselor first because they don't know us. They're likely to tell you. And so it's important that you know what to do when somebody is contemplating suicide. What I'd like to do is talk with you about the 3 steps that you need to take if somebody tells you or they hint to you that they might be suicidal. The first thing you need to do, step number 1, is the good neighbor response. If somebody tells you that they're going to hurt themselves or that they're going to kill themselves, you have to think, what would a good neighbor say? Don't do it. You got to show them that you care. Show them that you don't want them to die. Tell them, don't do it. I care about you. I want you to be alive. So that always needs to be step number 1. Step number 2 is to assess the situation. Some people, when they say that, they're not really serious about it. Whereas other people, when they say it, they're very serious about it, and maybe they've already attempted suicide. So you have to think about how serious a situation is this? So you can make a decision later as to whether you get help for them now or you get help for them later. You should always seek out help. Never be the only person who knows that somebody that you care about is contemplating suicide. It's too much for you to handle. You need help supporting that person, and the more people who can support that person, the better. So on step number 2, you're going to be asking some questions to figure out, is this person somebody who needs to get help now or somebody who needs to get help later? You use the acronym SLAP, S-L-A-P, to remember what to ask the person. S stands for specific details. If somebody has just barely thought about suicide and they haven't even considered methods that they might use to attempt suicide, that's much less serious than somebody who has thought about methods and they've thought it all the way through and they've figured out exactly what it is that they need to do to attempt suicide. So as you're talking to them about what they've thought about, find out how many details do they have on this and find out what details they have. The more details you get, the more you need to be worried and concerned about them, and the quicker you need to get help. L stands for lethality. How quickly could the person die if they do what they're planning to do? Is it a very lethal attempt or is it a non-lethal attempt? A gun obviously is something that's very lethal. If they're thinking about killing themselves with a gun, that's something you need to be more concerned about than somebody, say, who says that they're just going to starve themselves to death, because at least that's going to take some time for that to happen. A stands for availability. How available is the means for them to attempt suicide? If they're thinking about taking pills or they're thinking about cutting themselves, do they have knives that they have easy access to? Do they have pills that they have easy access to? How available are the means for them to actually hurt themselves? If it's somebody who's keeping the means close at hand so that they can attempt anytime they decide that they're ready, that's something you need to worry about. If it's somebody who doesn't have the means available to them and they would have to work to get the means to be able to kill themselves, then you don't have to worry quite as much about them. You don't have to get help quite so soon. P stands for proximity. How close are people who can help? The more people who know about it, who care about this person, the better. So how close are those people, and how many people know? Does the person's parents know? Does the roommate know? Does the romantic partner or the best friend know? And are these people supportive people who can help in an emergency? The more people who know, the better. And that's proximity. Okay, so that's step number 2. You've been a good neighbor and said don't do it. And secondly, you've looked for all the details. SLAP. Once you have all of that, then you have to decide, what do I do now? Obviously, if somebody has already done something to hurt themselves, then you need to call 911 and get help immediately. If it's somebody who you're really scared to leave them alone because they do have a lot of details, it is a very lethal plan, there are not a lot of people around to support, then you need to call for help immediately. There's always a counselor on call from Counseling Services. So if this is a CCU student, then definitely call Counseling Services. During the day, you can just call the office. The number is 843-349-2305. At nighttime or on the weekends, you can call Public Safety at 843-349-2177 or 2911, and they will call the counselor on call, and that counselor would give you a call right back. So you can talk with a counselor immediately to get that person help. If you're a little less concerned about the person, maybe they've just had some passing thoughts of suicide, they've just been sad and they haven't really put a lot of thought into this, they still need to get help so that it doesn't get serious, but maybe not right that minute. And so you make a plan with them. Maybe make a plan to walk over to Counseling Services with them the next day. Or maybe you tell them, why don't you make a call to Counseling Services tomorrow and get an appointment set up. And then you follow up with them. Ask them every few days, did you make that appointment? How was the appointment? Did you get set up for some counseling? Check back with them. Keep checking with them to make sure that they're following up. The really hard part is the judgment call. That's in the middle. That's when it's not real clear that they're going to hurt themselves, but it's something that you need to take seriously too. And so you kind of have that judgment call. Do I call for help or do I don't call for help? Well, the best thing is to err on the side of caution. You would much rather make the call and get some good advice, talk to some other people so that you're more comfortable with the situation than if you just ignore it and then the person ends up hurting themselves. Like I said, somewhere between 162 and 333 coastal students attempt suicide in 1 year. We do not want those people to die. So please follow your 3 steps. Be the good neighbor, assess using SLAP, and then make a plan for getting that person help. And we'll be here to help you.